we know yesterday, tragically, a member of the Dallas Cowboys, Mr. Marshawn Kneeland, defensive end for the Dallas Cowboys, tragically passed away yesterday. I kind of wanted to talk about this because of the impact that it had on me. Um, I'm an avid Cowboys fan. I keep up with Cowboys Twitter when it comes to DLLS Cowboys. Everybody involved, Rich Lombardi, Jeff, Clarence Hill, all these Cowboys beat writers, reporters, anybody associated with the Dallas Cowboys. I see their tweets on a daily basis. And I saw that a lot of them in the media were sharing a post from this guy. This was roughly at 8 a.m. in the morning, Eastern time. And they were sharing this post from this guy he had like 2,000 followers. He had his own media company and he followed boxing, but he looked like he was an avid Cowboys fan. And he had posted that Marshawn Kneeland had passed away. And I was distraught. Obviously, I'm media trained. I know that false information can be provided. So, I was worried for a minute because, everybody in Cowboys media they were running with this story and they were saying, I hope it weren't true. So I kept refreshing my Twitter page and, kept refreshing. And nothing ever happened. Well, I go to school on Thursdays. So I have class roughly at 11 o'clock. So I got up, I got ready to go. I took me a shower to get ready for school and get me a little breakfast in. And I looked to see if ESPN or anybody had posted anything, but I saw nothing. And I was making me some toast, and as soon as I put my toast in the toaster, ESPN, I got a notification from my ESPN on my phone saying that Marshawn Kneeland had passed away. At first, it was a tough blow. I don't know Marshawn personally, obviously. He don't know who I am. He never knew who I was. Nobody on the Cowboys media team, anybody associated with Dallas, they don't know who I am. But I have an emotional attachment to this team. It was hard for me not to be affected by it to a certain extent because I follow this team, I follow these players, and Marshawn Kneeland was a guy who he was a second overall pick for the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, you're a second overall pick for a team, and I'm gonna talk about this from the football aspect because again, I don't know the guy personally, but just from you're a second round pick. They just traded away Micah Parsons, and they're looking and thinking the Cowboys had the mindset thinking, this guy is the future. He had a good year last year. He had a knee injury towards the end of the season that derailed him. He was never 100% healthy at any point this year, and I couldn't believe it. I mean, we're talking about a guy in Marshawn Kneeland who he just scored a touchdown on Monday. And roughly 48, 60 hours later, he takes his own life. And and the reason why I was scared when I first saw the news, when they had posted it, they said he just passed away, and they will reveal the details later. And I didn't want to be negative, but that's where my first sign pointed to. I said this might be suicide. And then when I found out, before when the first media release came out roughly at 12 o'clock from the Frisco Police Department, and just the details about, he's had mental issues. He lost his mom in the draft. I didn't know that. As information that I just found out yesterday. And and he's been affected by it ever since. He had a girlfriend. He's leaving behind a girlfriend that's pregnant currently, and it sounded like he had a loving family. They said he texted his family goodbye. His girlfriend said that he was willing to take his life to the police department. That's what she said. It's sad. This was a guy who he always had a smile on his face. I saw Wanye Thomas posting on Twitter, talking about, everybody's saying that this should encourage the Cowboys defense to play better next week coming off the bye. And he was like, it's more than football. We're talking about these players lost a guy in the locker room. As Jeff and them and Clarence were saying on the podcast yesterday, that's an empty seat in the players' meetings, in the team meetings. That's an empty seat on the airplane, on the team plane. That's an empty locker in the locker room. And I know those defensive players and everybody on the team had a special connection with this guy. He was hard not to like. He had a bright future. He was a great player. He had an interesting story. I even went back yesterday and read up on more of his story and the things that he went through, and coming from where he come from to being drafted in the NFL, and just losing his mom in the process. I mean, it was tough. And you just never know. And the tough thing that I thought about too as well, when I was thinking about it, he had his own teammates. I mean, he had Solomon Thomas, who he has stuff going on with mental health issues, and even Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott's got his own mental health company and foundation with Fight Finish and Ask for Help. He wears it on his wristbands during the game. And Dak's lost his mom to cancer. His brother, he took his own life during COVID, and Dak's been through this. And I got to give Dan Orlowski credit for this too. I mean, as a man, we can be going through stuff, and we just don't want to tell anybody. I know the feeling. I'm not going to go into detail, but I know what it feels like to have stuff weighing on your shoulders, and you just don't want to tell nobody that you were going through something. You're just telling everybody, you're putting on a smile and just saying it's okay. I'm okay. And that was what Marshawn was doing. And he had stuff that affected him. And tragically, he done what he did. It was the Cowboys' bye week. At first, when I heard the news, I was like, did he get in an accident on vacation or anything of that nature? He was still in Dallas. He wasn't going anywhere. There were coaches or people that he had relationships with. They were saying that they were getting ready to go meet him and be with him during his bye week and go see him. And now they don't get to do that. And when I read the police report about him committing a traffic violation, the story didn't really make sense. And then I was hearing Clarence Hill, and I was like, I do think he planned this. I think they're reportedly saying that he was going 150 miles per hour on the highway. That's what Clarence Hill said. So, it's a tough situation. They interviewed Dak Prescott yesterday, in his comments. Dak looked strong, but I could tell Dak was wanting to cry. And I'm kind of tearing up now talking about it. I was tearing up a little bit, making the graphic for it, and just planning the show, and I was writing it, and I was like, man, I don't want to talk about this, but I mean, I wanted to talk about it because he was a player for the Dallas Cowboys, and I mean, it's just a sad situation. I mean, this kid had a bright future, and we don't get to foresee him do it on the football field anymore. I know it's even tougher now for the fellas, for the Cowboys. They're not working. They're on a bye week, so I know what it feels like to not have your mind occupied. And, I know Dak and CD and just everybody on the roster, they're just with their families and wherever they're at, and they're just having to think about it because they're not going to be back to the team facility till roughly next Tuesday. I think that's when they announced that they were going to be back at practice. So it's tough. I send my best regards to the family, the girlfriend, um, anybody that was in relation to Marshawn, and it's a sad situation. There's no other way around it, and it's something that hit me hard. I wanted to believe it wasn't real. I really didn't. Then the Cowboys said what they said. They released a statement, and it happened. I'm trying my best not to, there's some stuff I want to say, but I'm not going to say. I'm going to just keep it at that. My condolences to the family, everybody that is affected by this. May God let y'all find peace in the loss of a loved one. It's a sad situation, and anybody who is going throughout life with problems, and it's okay to ask for help. There are people in this world who love you, and I know Marshawn probably didn't know this, but when he done what he did, there are plenty of people who, that loved him and would love to see him today. And just always think about that. When you're gone, there's going to be people in this earth that's going to miss you and love you and wish you were still here. And I know Marshawn's girlfriend and all his family members wished he was here today. So yeah, I'm starting to cry a little bit myself. It's a tough situation. It really is. He was a great kid. Yeah, had a smile on his face all the time, and it's that situation. That's it. That's all I'm gonna say. I know I said that like 3 minutes ago, but it's just it sucks. Hopefully everybody in Dallas, all his teammates can find peace, and the NFL and everyone can come together and just be able to remember him, and for all the great things he done. And Marshawn Kneeland passing away at age 24. And the future, had a bright future. The Cowboys believed in him, and he tragically passed away at 24 years old.